Take a seat, grab a cup. It's tea time with T-Gerf.
Hey guys, welcome to Tea Time with T-Gerf, where I've got honest answers for your honest questions. Let's see what today's topics are. Today's topic is this: why should anyone watch Les Miserables? This this is interesting. So, some of you may be familiar with Les Miserables. You may have called it Les Miserables when you read it or read the title, but we're gonna call it Les Miserables, like it should be. Um, but as far as why should anyone watch Les Miserables, which by the way, it is a book too, written by Victor Hugo. It is thick. I'm talking like I have not read this book, but it does wonders for a decorative piece for your living room, to have on your nightstand. It can make you look smart just by carrying it around, but it is thick. But I do love the movies, and there are actually several movies about Les Miserables. The same movie, but in different ways. The musical, which is long lasting. I believe the first one was '85 on Broadway. Um, and then there's other movies that have been done. Most recently, the one with Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway, and others. Russell Crowe was in there. Um, and so, but if I had to choose, if you're gonna spend the time to watch Les Miserables, you need to look up the 25th anniversary concert. It is amazing, and you've got great actors and great singers. Whereas some of the Hollywood movies of Les Miserables, they really compromise one for the other a little bit. So the best bet is the 25th anniversary concert. So you want to check that out. Now, why should anyone watch Les Miserables? Well, in my opinion, it is the greatest musical, number one. And number two, it is the greatest story about the gospel, about the story of the Christian faith. Um, it's the greatest example of this. And what's so interesting is that it was not intended to be that way. To my knowledge and what I've researched before, and I could be wrong, I'm totally fine with that. But Victor Hugo himself, who wrote the play, who wrote the book, wrote the story, was not Christian at all. It's kind of during a time of war with the French Revolution and other things going on, and some incredible dynamics and backstories and other things going on all through Les Miserables. But I'll give you the gist of it and why you really should consider it, especially right now in this time when you're at home and if you're looking for something to do. And this counts as being productive, so I promise you, you can have a good time with this. Basically, it goes like this. Les Miserables is this great story of how two different characters respond to this idea of grace and mercy and new beginnings that they can have and they can share on their own. You have one who is Jean Valjean, who is really the story in of himself. The story of him going to prison, getting out of prison, trying to make a new life for himself, and then coming to a crossroads of not seeing where it's fair. He's been labeled as a convict, as a criminal. That's hanging over his head. He can't get a good job. He can't get good pay, and he really can't get a fresh start until one day he finally has this epiphany of grace and mercy from this priest in this town who really does something powerful for him, and so he responds, changes his life. He really becomes what we would say as a born again believer, and really goes on his way and has a different outlook and perspective on life as a whole. Whereas you have Javert, who's like this police chief, who is very black and white. Everything is or is not. There's no middle ground. He lives and dies by the law, and so he's the one that actually put Jean Valjean in prison. Is has the one that was watching after him for his parole when he got out finally, and he just is, I mean, very rigid, very raw, has no concept of grace and mercy whatsoever. But yet, he himself in the story has a moment where grace and mercy is extended to him, and now he has to respond to it as well. And he has a very different take and a very different response than Jean Valjean did. Now, I'm only telling you this to be a little bit vague because I don't want to spoil the movie. I don't want to spoil the story. But I will tell you this. If you're someone who has never really looked into the Christian faith, or you're someone who maybe has, and maybe you are a follower of Jesus, I want to challenge you to take a look at this movie. I know some of you are thinking, well, if it's a musical, count me out. Look, I get it. I promise you. If you really love to read, and you would have to love it a lot to read the book because it's so big. But even some of the movies, I don't take away from those. There are some movies of Les Miserables from over the years. There's an older one with Liam Neeson, who does a really good job. And it's not a musical movie. It's just a flat-out movie that tells the story of Les Miserables. So there's different ways, but get a hold of the story. Get a hold of what this is. And I want to challenge you, whether you're someone who's never really thought about Christianity much or someone who's been a Christian for a while, take a look at this story. Take a look at the movies. Read if you like. And let it speak to you and let it show you and demonstrate to you exactly what this gospel story is, because it does it in such a powerful way. And theater has a way of doing that. Theater has a way of showing us our humanity and really who we are as people. And that's what Les Miserables does. And that's what the gospel does as well. And so it's this incredible combination of the two, not even intentionally, but if you'll do it, if you'll watch it, I promise you'll love it. At least the story. You may not love the music, but I have a feeling that you will be singing some songs from it if you do take the risk and go ahead and put it out there and watch the musical. So that's why you and anyone should really consider watching Les Miserables. Now, with that, we've also got some other questions today that I want to get to that we have here. And the first one is, if you could be any character in Les Miserables, who would it be and why? And this is for me, not you. I'll let you watch the movie first, then you figure out what character you'd like to be. If I could be any character, it sounds bad, but I'll be the good guy. I love Jean Valjean because his story is really one that I empathize with. Now, granted, I've never been to prison. Got family that's been there, and so I understand that. But as far as the idea of getting a fresh start, the idea of living a life and trying to do things and figuring things out, and then finally getting to a point in life where you realize that there's more. You realize that this life is not just meant to be lived for yourself, where you realize that you really can't save yourself. And that's kind of where Jean Valjean was, and I've been there too. And so that's why if I could be any character in Les Miserables, which, by the way, you can shorten that by just saying Les Mis. It's a lot easier to say. You get miserable if you keep trying to say the whole title over and over again. Les Mis is good. So in Les Mis, I would be Jean Valjean if I could be anybody. He is the good guy. He has the best songs in the musical and all that kind of stuff. But he really is somebody that I can relate to. And then I hope that, again, as you watch this, hopefully, as you watch Les Mis or look into it, you'll find yourself in the story. You'll realize that there is literally a part for everybody that you can relate to. But I hope that you can relate to Jean Valjean just like I can and still do to this day. And for our final question, let's look at this one. Again, if you could make an alternative ending to Les Mis, what would it be? Well, honestly, that's not fair. Because I wouldn't make an alternative ending. I may change a few of the details. For sure, I don't want to spoil it for you of how maybe I would change some of those details of the story. I don't want anybody to die. So I mean, in general, I like for people to live. Um, so keep that in mind. But at the end of the movie, at the end of the story, it is an incredible ending to this full scope of this story because there's so many people involved, and it really makes me think when you watch this and you go to the ending, it makes me think back about how all the different people in my life have played a part in my life and what they've contributed and what they've done. Not that I even deserved it, but the movie really embodies this idea that we all play a part in each other's lives. And so the ending of the movie is phenomenal, honestly. There's even again a couple of really touching songs at the end. And so again, I would just say this, just and this may be um, a letdown, but I can't. I don't want to say exactly how I would change the ending, but I wouldn't change it much. Just a couple of details here and there. So later on, I might give you guys. I might give you guys some more information on that if you come back and tune in with us. Um, but bottom line, Les Miserables is an incredible book, an incredible story. It's an incredible movie. 25th anniversary concert. Look it up. Go buy it. Order it. Do whatever you can. I've got a copy. You need to borrow it. Let me know. We can maybe work it out. But I promise you that it is something that will speak to you, no matter who you are, what your religious background is, what your creed is, no matter what the situation is. I promise you, it'll speak to you. And can I just say this? You really have nothing to lose. I mean, I'm sure your hours aren't all filled at this point, especially you college students. You know what? You may need a good cry. You may need a good laugh. You may need a whole lot of stuff. And I promise you, it's all in this movie. Again, you don't like the music? Go find the Hollywood movie that was made earlier that doesn't have a lot of music in it. It's okay. Um, but a good song wouldn't hurt anybody right now. So thanks for stopping by this week. It was good to have you guys here. And hey, I'm T-Gerf, and that's the T. So hey, I'm T-Gerf, and this is I messed it up. Can I just say it?
Yeah.